welcome back to Founders and Genes. I'm your host, Emily Jean. And before we get into the episode, I just want to say a huge thank you so much for listening to my podcast. It means the world to me. I also wanted to say that if you enjoy the show, feel free to leave a review on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening to this, and also to follow us. You can follow us on Spotify, of course. You can follow us on Instagram at Founders and Genes. You can also find me on Instagram at emily.jeans, or you can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect with people on there, and I have a lot of good conversations from listeners. Also, you can always leave a bad review for us. I'm totally fine with that. And in fact, I think that's exciting. I would love to know what we can do to improve. So you can also leave comments below and let me know what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy. I actually do read every single one. We also have a newsletter that comes out once a week, so you can get all the updates from us. We also put in some weekly business and marketing updates in there, as well as some personal notes from me. You can subscribe to that on my LinkedIn, also through the Instagram and in the show notes below. Anyways, that is all from me. I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode. I hope it's a good one, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye. Okay. Well, Luna Battalia, welcome to Founders and Genes. I am so excited to chat to you today. Before we get started, would you like to give a little bit of a background about yourself for people who don't know you yet?
Sure. I'm excited to be here with you as well. And yeah, my background is a mix of design and psychology. And for years I worked in much more clinical settings, prisons, addictions care centers, and then I had a private practice that was much more leadership focused, but very depth psychology based in the coaching practice. And I got really burnt out and I got a ton of compassion fatigue after 8 years of doing that. And during COVID, my life just shifted to helping people who were taking their business, their skills online. And I had a ton of experience and I have a ton of background in design. And I was kind of secretly doing it. And so the world of branding opened up to me and it tripled my income that year in a year that people were really losing a lot. And so over the last 5 years, I've created a brand studio and we work full spectrum. So messaging, branding, visuals, websites, business and brand strategy. And it's been great. And now I have my kind of personal brand where I do leadership mentoring and then run the brand studio as well. And so it's been a real inspiration to kind of bring these worlds that have always been a big part of my life together.
I would love to kind of start all the way from the beginning. So I know that you've spent over 15 years in digital marketing and psychology. I guess I'm curious, what originally pulled you towards this kind of work? What originally inspired that?
I grew up with an amazing mom. She died when I was quite young and she was
Mm,
also young. And she was like 38 and I was 13. But in those 13 years, I witnessed her with so much care. So, single mom, only child. So, just the two of us a lot together. And I really witnessed the way that she cared for our home, cared for her belongings. We didn't have a lot, but everything was very great quality and we took care of things. And the way that she wrapped presents and cared about her penmanship and everything in our house had a home. And that really stuck with me, this quality of intentionality, of care, of beauty, and aliveness, like the things in our life being something that we care for as if they're living beings. And so I've really lived my life like that and taken that model from my mom and have this sense of beauty way and intentionality and love to make things, zhuzh things and make them make a place more beautiful than you left it.
mm,
And I really have taken that into the world of branding and that quality of animism and the living nature of things. And it's really shaped how I run my business and my work. And when I bring it into how I related with my clients and their businesses and their brands, it was a different approach that when I learned later as an adult that there's all these worlds of Animism, Japanese Shintoism. In my psychology degree, I have a master's in spiritual psychology, and we did a lot of gestalt and parts work. And so,
Um,
giving these aspects of ourself a voice, giving little objects or visions in our dreams, like, oh, I was having this dream and there was this little cloud, and like giving that cloud a voice. If it could speak, what would it say? And
uh,
so that approach naturally resonated with me because I have this imprint of everything being in relationship with everything that's around me.
right.
And so when I translated that into my work with clients, it just was this unique approach that really allowed a perspective shift that created a lot of relaxation and
Mhm.
trust in how we relate to and run our businesses and receive content and receive offerings versus this quality of ego and ambition that can drive the creation process. And
Right.
so, yeah, I can see how just the little tendrils from my childhood, which were just unintentional, just my living environment, created this ripple effect that has become so much bigger than me.
It's interesting too. I think there's a little bit of this undiscussed or not often discussed debate when it comes to marketing, branding, all those things that is a question of messaging versus design.
Hmm.
Obviously, in an ideal world, they are working together. But I think my question is, when did you kind of realize messaging over design was the bigger key to a strong brand?
I love this. I had a lot of people come to me and they're like, "Oh, I already had a friend do my logo and color story." I was like,
Mm,
"Cool, let's see it." And then we would get into messaging and we'd explore archetypes and tone of voice and expression and personality and values and these foundational pieces. And then when I would look back at what they created, there would be this mismatch. And
mhm,
what are the emotions that they're trying to evoke within their audience? And
mhm,
do these visuals evoke these emotions? Do they reflect these archetypal qualities that the brand embodies? Is the bad bitch tone or the subtle
mhm,
wise woman tone of this brand, is it reflected in the visuals? And I think that because for so long, up until very recently, the definition of branding felt like colors and logos and fonts. That's kind of how people perceived it. And so they wanted a brand. So they tried to do these things and they put things on Canva and they paid their
mhm,
friend $500 to like do something. And then when you really lay out the foundation of the core message, it shapes so much of the to me, our words are casting the spells and the environment and shaping the reality. Words are creating our reality all the time, whether they're in our head and our thoughts or that we're speaking out loud. And while visuals do as well, they also evoke emotion and create worlds. They feel like supporting roles to me, whereas the
mhm.
message is really the leading factor in what is curating the environment or the brand world.
Okay, well, for people who are hearing about all this for the first time and kind of this concept and this work that you're doing, can you sum up to what is animist branding in kind of simple words? And also, you might need to correct my pronunciation on that. Is that good? Animist?
Yeah,
Animist?
animist branding. Yeah, animist branding is something that I created, and it really takes the quality of animism, which is rooted in a lot of different indigenous cultures, but traditionally come we know it from Japanese Shintoism,
Mhm,
and it's this idea that everything has a soul,
mhm,
everything is living from like the glass, which is like has this whole story, this natural drinking water out of this glass and this whole story of like glass and how it comes to be in this natural form and all the
mhm,
hands that crafted this that went through a journey and that we all have these lived experiences that shape us just like the glass has this whole journey that shaped it. And what happens when I experience like I don't know if you're sitting in a chair or not or if you're standing, but
mhm, mhm,
when you like what happens when you tune into the chair being alive? Is your experience
mhm,
of sitting different? And it's something that we kind of take for granted. But when I tune in and feel the aliveness of the chair, I have a very different experience of being held and sitting and something that I just wouldn't really think of and I would take for granted. And what happens when we're in relationship to these subtle shifts happen when
Mm,
we're in relationship with the living things that are in our environment, which are all things,
right.
plastic included, Amazon ordered included, right? We don't discriminate. And so I often find that people in business are so inundated by Instagram posts saying that it giving advice and shaping that we lose touch with the living entity of our business, the living entity of our brand. And I really see it as something, whatever your version of God, universe, create, the thing, the animating force of the whole world. The
Um,
muse, I kind of think that it taps you on the shoulder and it's like, hey, you, Emily, I want to make a creative baby with you. I want to birth a
mm,
podcast with you. And it's only going to be this if you and I do it together. And if I do it with somebody else, it's going to be cool, but it's going to be different. It's going to be a different
right.
creation, like having a kid. And you birth this thing into the world and it has a life of its own. Even though I birthed this creation, just like a
Mm,
child, it has a totally, I might think it would be a great lawyer, but it wants to be a dancer. It's like it has
mm,
this thing that is unto itself. And I see our businesses and our brands in that way as these living beings that our job, which I would say, just like anything we create, the job is to create the environment for which it can thrive, not to
mm,
manipulate it to what I want it to be, but to simply create the environment for which it can thrive and watch the magic that happens when I focus on that. And so Animist branding is this relationship to your brand as a living being, as an entity with a soul that can communicate with you, that can tell you its message. And I see myself and I train my clients to see themselves as the messenger, becoming the messenger, where they are attuned to the message and they're not distracted by all the bits and bobs of needing to get a viral post and this hook type of content and this, but really listening to what the brand wants to say. Sometimes I have my clients do a content fast and shut all the noise off, mute everyone. And what I notice again and again and again when they do that, I like to do 2 weeks, but we start small for people who that feels overwhelming to, few days.
mhm,
And then if they're getting great results, which inevitably I haven't had an experience where a client doesn't, they shut off all the noise and they have so much content come through. They have book
mm,
ideas, they have posts, they write tons of newsletters. They just original ideas because they're in an intimate relationship with their brand that is allowing, they're creating intentional space for the ideas and the visions and the creations and the courses and content to come through in a way that when they're busy and consuming content, it's very hard to create
mhm,
when you're consuming a lot.
mhm,
And so that's really the whole approach to branding that I take. And at the studio, we really approach all our clients with is inviting them to relate to their brand as a being that they can really hear and listen to and serve by creating an
mhm,
environment for which it can thrive and really allowing its legacy to be bigger than that individual. And I
mhm,
work with a lot of people with personal brands. And so I find that one of the big reliefs is the separation between me as an individual identifying as my brand and then someone who's in service to this creation thriving and having this
mm.
legacy that is bigger than me. And the perfectionism shifts, the you're relating with it instead of identifying as it. And so much pressure comes off the people who are running these personal brands to be seen in a certain way and they step into service and it looks very different.
I It's so interesting that we're talking about this because last night my mom sent a package to me and it has like one of my stuffed animals that I've had since I was a kid.
Aw.
But I have a Japanese friend who was telling me about, I think it's the same concept. And she was saying there's a certain point when an object, if you use it enough, it creates its own soul, like has its own soul. So I assume this is the same concept. And so I was thinking last night, like, I wonder at what point, like, have I used this stuffed animal enough for it to have its own soul? And I was thinking about like its journey traveling from California to Sydney, like those sort of things. So I can really understand this. Like, I feel like this is like the perfect time for me to hear about this kind of concept. Um, I am curious though, for business owners and entrepreneurs who are hearing this, I think so many people are concerned with that very practical element of KPIs and
Hmm.
return on investment and that sort of thing. How are you able to communicate your method to them in a practical way? Or are you simply working with people who are like kind of already familiar with this concept, or can you walk me through that process a little?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that in a way they're familiar with the concept in a surface level way by just being in my field, right? So if someone's going to work
Mhm.
with me, they probably found me somewhere, whether they've
Right.
been. But I find often enough that when we work together, the understanding of it is very different. And there is
Mm,
a big pushback with, but the brand is because primarily I work with personal brands, but the brand is me and I am the
mm,
brand. And that differentiating is often a friction point, but every time there's always this exhale and this relief and this deep understanding of how that serves them. And so in my experience, the proof is in the pudding. And so I
mm,
have enough data over these years to see how approaching messaging like this has increased a client's monthly recurring revenue by 3x in 6 weeks just by shifting their
mhm.
messaging. And so I
And
have so much of that data collected to show
right,
quantitative data. And
right.
for me, the foundation is always the qualitative. Like I'm all about stats. I'm all about collecting data. I think having
Mhm.
data naturally, being able to look at data and collect it naturally shifts our behavior to get more of the result that we want just by simply being in relationship with the data, by
Right.
looking at it, by collecting it, by tracking it. And qualitative data is, does it feel good? Does it feel right? Is there more
Mhm.
relief in your business? And so I find that those two things are also usually directly related. And as the ease and the approach to their business, not seeing their business as a problem or something that needs to be constantly bettered, worked on, fixed, improved.
Mhm.
Because if you're in
Mm,
relationship with any creation and that, like, or anything or any person or anyone, and that was the way you
mhm.
related to them, it wouldn't feel good for them.
Right.
And so I find that the qualitative experience naturally shifts the quantitative data in a better direction. More sales, more money, more audience, more growth, more alignment, offers that are created from a different place that sell better. Even just shifting messaging this of the same offer and watching the sales from one year to the next by working on the messaging in this way.
Yeah. You've done a great job of orchestrating something that I think might be a somewhat difficult concept for people to wrap their
Right.
heads around, as well as that more of the grounded, practical elements of the work as well. For people who want to implement this or are interested in this, is there kind of one daily habit or shift that people can make that can help make their voice clearer and their brand better?
Yeah. I think it's going to be unique for every person. I have a lot of different frameworks and approaches that I can offer. And I want to come back to your friend, your Japanese friend who
Mhm,
shared this
mhm,
because in Japanese culture has such craftsmanship, like incredible craftsmanship. They're so dedicated to whatever their craft is and don't often dabble in other things. Like if they're going to choose to do something, they're going to go all in and really become quite good at whatever that is. And the thing your friend was saying is about using a tool. So if you're using a
mm,
tool like a paintbrush or any type of tool, sharpening tool that you're using in your craft, it could sit in the garage and it could get dull because you're not in relationship with it. But if you're using it every day, you know when it needs to be sharpened, you know when it how it likes to be sharpened, you know the sharpening tool
mm,
that it prefers because of this relationship that you have with it. And so I think of your brand in the same way. Excuse me. So this quality of intimacy is it can feel abstract when we're talking about business, but it's something that we all know in our bodies because we have relationships with intimate relationships with people and how
mm,
you're closer to some friends than others because and some of it's time that you spend together, but most of it is the quality of time, the way it feels when you hang out with them. And the
mm,
relationship grows and it feels good and thrives and gives you rewards in exchange because of your quality of intimacy that you're choosing to show up in that relationship with. So I think the
right,
first thing is one, seeing your brand as something that you can relate to, and then showing up with a quality of intimacy and really checking yourself. So if you the main thing I see is this problem solution thing that we're always looking at our businesses as they're looking for the thing that could improve. And I'm all about refinement and reflection and turning dials to get better results. Absolutely. And
Mhm.
if you were in a friendship with your business and you were relating to it in this way, there's ways to
Mm.
improve the results that are going to ways of approaching getting better results in that relationship than others. And so I
Right.
think just checking in how it feels is in your body is like number one. Does the way I approach my business feel good? Am I stressed? Am I tired? Am I getting the results I want is really clear
Mhm.
factor. And so really kind of tuning into your body. And I think business can be so external data proving worth, proving value instead of
Mhm.
how we feel. And we've been conditioned in this culture to kind of approach getting results and not worrying about the cost of getting those results. And
Yeah.
so I'm looking at, okay, well, what is the cost? I can get these results for sure. But if I'm in adrenal fatigue and my haven't seen my partner because I'm working late and these kind of like and other things are suffering, are those results worth it to me? So for some people,
Mhm.
yes. For me, no. So
Right.
how do I approach my business where I can have epic results and have all these other things that feel good in my life and my health and my body and my finances, my bank account, my relationships? And so to me, it's
Mhm.
just that's actually the data, a big part of the data I'm looking for. But
Yeah.
there's a great book called War of The War of Art. Yeah, Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art. He talks about the muse and creating things. He's a writer, so he uses writing as an analogy a lot. And he says, whatever you do, just give it time every day. Sit down and create a container where this is what you're working on and it's intentional. And
Mhm.
so he lights a candle and does some kind of brief general invocation to say, I'm sitting down to be with you now, to write, to be with this book, to write this article, to whatever it is. And there's a
Mhm.
quality of, hey, we're choosing to be together. And I think it's the difference between hanging out with a friend or a person and you're like on your phones in the same space and you're hanging out,
Mhm.
or like
Mhm.
really being together and having a
Yeah.
really clear intention of what we're here to do. And I think that you can relate to your business that way. And just that little shift of like, hey, we're going to like hang out and co create together. And
Mhm.
just saying it or doing whatever ritual makes you feel good, whether it's turning on a particular light or opening up curtains or lighting a candle, whatever that is just kind of
Right.
acknowledging that you're here together doing something pretty spectacular, creating change
Right.
and transformation and magic in the
I
world.
love the idea of cultivating a relationship with the creative side of ourselves like that. I think that's
Mm.
brilliant. As somebody who is clearly amazing at helping others find
Thank you.
their own voice, what was the hardest part for you of finding your own and working with your voice?
Oh gosh. I'm gonna give a bunch of excuses first. I'm a Sicilian American New Yorker who's an
Mm,
Enneagram 8 Sagittarius. So like lots of intensity. And
mm,
I think that one of the big challenges that I've had in my life that I still navigate is not hearing myself the way that other people hear experience me.
mhm,
And what I think is like a 4, other people can experience as a 10 of intensity. So deliverability has been something that's huge. And there was a time in my early 20s where I was very aware of relationship dynamics and I became very aware of seeing this pattern in relationships, friends, family, and I realized that I was the common denominator and I couldn't say, "Oh, well, they're like this and they're like that." I was like, I now see something I can't unsee that I
mm.
now have to take responsibility for.
The what?
And it was deliverability. It was like, "Oh, if
Mm,
I part of my intensity is the belief in what I'm saying and
mm,
the deep feeling of wanting it to be heard and seeing the value in it and wanting to express it to create transformation or connection or whatever it is. And
mhm,
the way I was doing that was not always received well because
mm,
I was just I wasn't in relationship with the other person there. I was just in
yeah,
relationship with myself and the idea and my own creativity and wanting to share it.
mhm,
And that dynamic of really tuning into somebody else's needs and body and nervous system and limbic system and that moment was really lost on me.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so I made a conscious effort because I wanted to have better relationships in my life and more intimacy and more
mhm,
longevity, I think was really what it is in my relationships, that I saw my peace and have made a big effort to change that over time while not losing myself and making myself small and pretending to be something that I'm not. Nobody
mm,
in my life would ever, they know that they can trust that I'm always going to be honest with them. Nobody ever thinks,
mm,
I don't really know if she really liked that, like your
mhm.
dinner. If I say I liked it, I like it. If I say if I don't like it, you'll also know.
That's a good trait to have. I feel like I'm still refining that skill. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's really trustable
Mm,
quality. Like I
mhm.
can trust what you're saying is true.
Right. Absolutely. I want to ask you so many more questions, but I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So I'd love to do some rapid fires with you before we
Great. Oh,
wrap
I
up.
love rapid fire. Okay.
Okay, good, good. I always say rapid fire, but they are never rapid. So that's keep that in mind. If you feel compelled to give a long answer, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, first question. Is there a brand that you think absolutely nails its voice?
There's so many. I can name so many. A lot of brands that I work with and relate to are personal brands. So the individuals, quality, people are always evolving. Whereas
Mm,
product brands, yeah, they're evolving, but like the consistency is what makes the brand loyalty, is like something you can trust. So there's so
mhm,
many that really do that well. I just was working on something recently and I used Patagonia as I think that
mm,
their brand consistency, their brand voice, understanding their audience in a really intimate way and
right.
not evolving, but not evolving too much where it's totally different.
Mhm.
It's the heart of it stays consistent thread and that they really get what they're doing and who they are. And the evolution has been a quality of refinement, not so much of radical change.
Yeah, it's funny. We just had a guest a few weeks ago that recommended the founder of Patagonia, his book.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think people really resonate with his story and that brand.
Yeah. And I feel like it has heart. You know, some
Totally.
product brands, you feel like the heart is lost and their story, it feels relevant in just like seeing a jacket.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Do you have a creative ritual that you use when you're stuck?
When I'm stuck, yeah, often it's getting out of what I'm doing. Stop, pausing,
Mhm,
changing my environment, going into nature, doing something else. That can also be a bit of like productive procrastination where I'm like avoidance of it because, so I have to be aware of like not switching gears too much where I'm now just doing things to avoid actually being with the thing I'm wanted to be with. But I think changing my environment is one of the best things. I'm not doing rapid fire, but I'm like, even in
no,
like a
no, no.
relationship, in an argument, I'm like, let's move rooms. Let's, like go in the kitchen and boil tea. And like, what happens when we change, it can like shift a lot. So yeah, I think when we get stuck, it's like we're forcing a little bit.
Yeah. Also explains why so many arguments happen during COVID. 'Cause we couldn't leave our
Oh,
homes.
yeah,
Everyone's
I know.
trapped
I helped a lot
inside.
of friends through divorce, and then I also got divorced, and COVID
Mhm.
was like a little too
Yeah.
close quarters.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Final question. My favorite question to ask everyone. Do you have a book or a course or a resource or a podcast or anything like that you can recommend to budding entrepreneurs?
My stuff, I
Yeah,
guess so.
absolutely. Yeah,
Like, I
of
don't want to
course.
waste that opportunity. When you first started sharing, I was going in a different direction, and then I was like, "Oh, wait, she's asking me about my stuff." Yeah, I have this course, Messenger, Becoming the Messenger. It's all about the art of mastering the art of being heard in branding. It's all about brand
Mhm,
messaging, storytelling, really understanding your foundations, the values, the mission, the foundation, and then it's the personality piece of the brand that we go into, then
mhm,
audience, and then storytelling. I think of as the way that the brand and the audience communicate.
okay,
And so we kind of go in this order of developing foundations, personality, audience, and storytelling. And yeah, it's super rich. It's basically what I've cultivated over the last 15 years that I do with my one on one clients in my messaging work
mhm,
and dialed all that framework into something that's self paced.
yeah. Luna, where can people find you and where can they connect with you?
Yeah, I keep it simple. My website and Instagram. I'm Luna Battalia on Instagram. Website is Luna Love Leadership, and that connects to Career Creative, the brand studio. So everything's in Luna Battalia and Luna Love Leadership. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Okay, beautiful. And that'll be linked in the show notes as well. But well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been such a good episode. I think this is really going to resonate with people. And for a lot of people, it's going to be exactly what they need to hear.
Awesome. I'm glad. I'm excited to have spent this time with you and connect with your audience in this way. It's
Of
been an honor.
course. All right. And that is a wrap.